Okay, what is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Thank you guys so much. Before I get started, I just want to say I really appreciate the extra views that you guys have been giving me on my favorite Sasha Banks matches. I've noticed the viewership there has gone up. Thank you guys for that. Without further ado, let's get started with tonight's broadcast review of Friday Night Smackdown, which opened up with Raw's own RK Bro, who came out tonight and issued a challenge to the Usos, who apparently need their cousin Roman to make all the decisions. So instead of getting an answer from the Usos and the Bloodline, Sami Zayn, who is the self proclaimed locker room leader, or should I say Samoan Sammy, or should I really say Rusty Sammy? Fun fact, Rusty is the name of my grandfather's dog. But either way, true story. Either way, tonight Sammy Rusty Zayn came out and pretended that he is an advisor or a special worker with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. And of course, Rusty's big mouth landed him in trouble tonight, and he was forced to go one on one with Riddle. Before I go any further, let me just acknowledge something. And speaking of Roman Reigns, let's acknowledge something. Tonight, SmackDown, for the first time in I don't know how long, didn't have any SmackDown shorts tonight. But let's get into the matches that happened. So, considering that we didn't have any SmackDown shorts tonight, we opened up the show match wise with Riddle versus Rusty Zane. And the fans were chanting, Rusty sucks. But either way, we thought we were going to see another Super RKO like we did at Backlash. And if you didn't see the review, be sure to watch my Backlash review, WrestleMania Backlash review. But of course, I thought we were going to see that, but we didn't. And there was a moment where Sami Zayn tried to mock Randy Orton by attempting the vintage DDT, except it didn't work out. But he did receive the vintage DDT from Riddle, as well as a Randy Orton-like power slam. And of course, at the end, instead of getting an RKO, we did get the Bro Bomb, which to me, every time he does that, I think he's going to go for a tombstone. But it's that. Every time. But either way, Riddle won the match, and the Usos and Roman Reigns were watching from backstage, and I got to say, I am waiting for someone to acknowledge or address the fact that Paul stares at Roman. Oh, not that there's anything wrong with that. But either way, Paul is just so funny. Paul Heyman didn't stare at Brock Lesnar that way, but the way he just stares at Roman just is so funny. Strange, but in some ways funny. Moving forward, like I said, tonight was SmackDown short free, and this next match was really good. I really enjoyed the next one. Ronda Rousey says she wants to be a fighting champion, and obviously we know that Ronda's going to be a champion that shows up. Now, with Brock Lesnar being babyface at the earlier this year, it made me wonder would Brock Lesnar show up every week. But the fact of the matter is, when Brock Lesnar was WWE World Champion, he was way more habitually showing up to work more. Whereas he was heel, we didn't see a lot of the champion, which was Roman's original problem when he was babyface. But either way, tonight Ronda Rousey showed up, and just like John Cena did in 2015 when he was U.S. champion, Rousey issued an open challenge to anyone. And who accepted? Raquel, as now known, Rodriguez, not Gonzalez, Rodriguez. Either way, she accepted the challenge, and boy, that was a match. I never seen anyone just throw or woman handle Rousey the way Raquel did tonight. She really put on an incredible showing. And if I decide next year, at January of next year, to do No, her birthday's on the 1st. If I remake my top 10 favorite matches from Ronda Rousey next year on the 1st, February 1st, I'll end up putting this match on the list because it was very epic. It wasn't like long epic, but it was still very interesting and very competitive. And Raquel really gave Ronda her strength. It was more so strength versus MMA. And the strength almost won. And no, Ronda didn't bite off more than she could chew because she's Ronda Rousey. She's from UFC coming on to wrestling entertainment. I like to call it wrestling entertainment instead of just sports entertainment. But either way, Raquel had a great showing. There was a part of me that thought she might have turned heel after the sportsmanship handshake, but she didn't because, nonetheless, despite her showing of strength, Rousey found a way to roll her up for the victory. I gotta say, good match. Real good match. Later on, after that, we saw Madcap Moss, who I used to call Magic Mike when he was a heel. Madcap Moss was taking an interview from Caleb Braxton, and he talked about what he wanted to do for his future in his career. Great ideas like winning the Money in the Bank match at Las Vegas next month, or no, that's in July. Um, he also said, "What about aligning with Sasha and being Madcap Boss?" Hmm. Has a good ringtone to it. But before we could go any further, Kayla screams out of startle. Baron Corbin attacks, or should I say, Big Bald Wolf attacked Madcap with a chair, and then, just like they did to Drew McIntyre at day one, they crushed his neck, except like Kane did in 2004 after Bad Blood. However, this time they used a chair. He used a chair and crushed his neck with his trophy. And so Madcap Moss had to be taken out, stretchered out, and Corbin had a very cringy joke of Moss Spittle. What was that? Moss Spittle joke. Yeah, the Moss Spittle. Terrible joke. Now I believe Madcap when he said he got his jokes from Corbin. Corbin is one of those guys that Corbin to WWE. I don't want to say. Uh, do you? Let me just ask you guys. Do you guys think Corbin to WWE is what MJF is to AEW? Because they're just guys that no one can stand. I don't know if Baron Big Bald Wolf's parents hate Corbin, but I know MJF's parents couldn't stand him, and I personally can't wait to see Warlow powerbomb MJF. But either way, good job a couple of weeks ago powerbombing Big Cass, now known as Morrissey, something like that. But either way, let's go forward in another match that thankfully was not a short. We had Shayna Baszler and Natalya versus Sasha Banks and Naomi. And let me just say this. I saw the highlights from this past Tuesday in NXT, and to me, this is just my personal opinion. To me, Natalya versus Cora Jade reminded me so much of WrestleMania 13 because Natalya at the end had Cora Jade in a sharpshooter, and Cora Jade refused to tap out but decided she would rather pass out than tap out. So that gave her great respect. And at the end, Natalya gave Cora Jade a shook hand, and a hug after the end of the match. And I honestly thought that after the hug, Natalya was gonna attack her just to add insult to injury, but it was actually a genuine show of respect. So great match at NXT. I saw that. It reminded me of that WrestleMania 13. Except at WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart turned heel because of all of the aggravation that was pushing him to do that. But either way, moving forward, bottom line, good match, not a bad match, tag team match tonight. And it was a match that saw Boston Glow Connection, formerly known as Team Bad, with Tamina Snuka, retain their tag team championships when I believe Naomi rolled up Natalya. Now, Tuesday, Natalya won, and tonight she gets pinned and rolled up. So that's crazy interesting. Moving forward, tonight we also had Kofi Kingston versus Butch, formerly known as Pete Dunne. And I will say over and over, and I know some of you may agree, and maybe Munchkin may disagree, but I want the original Pete Dunne back. But for whatever reason, they said they have to change their names when they come to Raw or SmackDown because of copyrights. I don't get that at all. But in any event, in JR's words, moving forward, we had Kofi Kingston versus Pete Dunne, now known as Butch, the hothead. And I just gotta say, I found it very funny that Kofi Kingston was bounce humping the ropes. That was just hilarious. I just thought that was hilarious. But either way, also not a bad match. It was a match that would see Pete Dunne go for a victory using his Pete Dunne-like move as Butch to get the victory over Kofi Kingston. And then he walked off into the crowd. I thought he was going to run off again, but he came back and raised the hands of Ridge Holland and Sheamus. So he's not running off again. But I still want old Pete back. But nonetheless, Pete Dunne defeats Kofi Kingston in a nice match and raised the hand of Shake It, Sheamus, and Ridge. So, man, it's almost over that fast. Tonight, earlier, KBro came out and issued a challenge before it was interrupted by Rusty Samoan Sammy, and it would turn into a match. However, where was Lacey tonight? Where was Lacey Evans? We didn't see Lacey Evans tonight. We saw Shotzi Blackheart take a page out of Dolph Ziggler's book with the "It Should Have Been Me" line, and Aaliyah, who would also make a good contender because at least Aaliyah didn't quit. But either way, let's get to the ending part of the show. We had Roman Reigns, who is at 622 days as Universal Champion. I don't think he might be champion forever, unless The Rock faces him next year. That would still be a great match to see. But you have him, you have Usos at 298 days. They come out and Roman calls Pennsylvania Commonwealth Town, and they still acknowledge him. But either way, he talked about everybody that he defeated. I don't like using the crash word that starts with a SM. I like to say crush. He stacked and crushed them. But Roman crushed, he said he crushed Cena and then told everyone what's next. Sunday crushed 3 other guys, and Friday told everyone what's next. Randy Orton defends John Cena by saying John Cena is half the guy he'll ever be. For those of you who haven't seen it, be sure to check out my review of my top 10 favorite matches of John Cena. I think you might like it, but that's only half of it because there are so many great matches from Cena. I might do another one for his birthday again next year, part 2. But either way, he defends the name of John Cena, Orton, who is a huge rival of John Cena, and then goes on to finish answering the challenge, offering the challenge. And he put it very slowly and then pulled out a Rush Hour movie quote. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Randy Orton must have been watching Rush Hour. Nonetheless, the Usos accept, and they said there's going to be belts on our shoulders, and then there's going to be belts on Roman's shoulders, including the one standing behind me. And before Roman could boast and hold his championship, Riddle gave Roman a leaping knee and then hightailed out of there. Either way, next week is going to be the unification match. I thought they were going to save it for another pay-per-view like Hell in a Cell, but it looks like they're going to do it next week. And speaking of next week and future on, hopefully Roman sticks around because there were rumors that Roman is taking time off and that he's not going to be at the next pay-per-view. Hopefully not. Hopefully he'll stick around for a long time, champion or not. SmackDown won't be the same without Roman Reigns. So, what are your favorite moments of tonight? SmackDown short free night. So, what was your favorite match about tonight? What do you think about tonight's show, broadcast, and this review? Let me know in the comment section below. That's all the time I have for you today, and I'll be back next time with another review on all things wrestling. Have a great weekend, folks.